So to answer that question, I'm going to take you to Jerome Dally versus First National Bank of Montgomery in the state of Minnesota. This went to the Supreme Court. Now, let me explain to you what happens. When you go apply for a loan, say I want $100,000, they type that up on their books as a credit for $100,000, right? They then debit your account $100,000. So positive 100,000, negative 100,000. The books are closed. You see how that is done? The books are closed. But no, what they do then is, in order for you to access that money, make you write a check for $100,000. So you've just given them $100,000. They're up $100,000. And then on top of you just giving them up $100,000, you've created a $100,000 credit. So there was a $100,000 credit, then there was a debit, so the balances were zero, but then you gave them another credit of $100,000. And then on top of that, they charge you interest, and you pay them another $100,000. So they have just made a cool profit without ever putting up anything of their own. Now let's look at the case text. Defendant appeared and answered that the plaintiff is the bank, created the money and credit upon its own books by bookkeeping entry as the consideration of the note. And then scroll down to where it says, it is hereby ordered and decreed that because of the failure of lawful consideration, the note and the mortgage are null and void. So he proved in a court of law, this is one of many court cases like this, that the bank is not losing any money. They're not losing any money. People want to say, well, they have to make money off the interest. No, they could take 5% of the credit they just arranged in your name and make a profit. But no, what they do is they keep the entire amount, fraud you into paying them double. But again, this is just one of many court cases that prove that money is not real. There is no consideration, right? They got the money from you because we haven't had money since 1933 on the gold standard. What money did they actually loan you? They didn't. They typed it up on their computer. There is no loss for them. That's why they can't take anything from you.
Hey everyone, so thank you so much. I'm just going to get into this really quick. My name is Megan Monroe. I am a trustee on Kotipiko Aotearoa, the sovereign bank of Aotearoa. Aotearoa is New Zealand, and I work with the Maori indigenous nation there. If you guys didn't know, the Maori and New Zealand's colonial country are currently co-governance to the land that is Aotearoa. And we'll get into that in a second, because it totally relates to the fact that you, as a mother or father, if you're watching this, when you guys have your children, that is essentially that is an asset or property to your estate. And if you do not take the certificated security, which is the birth certificate, and file that into your private estate within 2 weeks of that child being born, you abandon, forfeit, or give up your rights to be the owner of that. And then, you know, they think this is a bad thing, but it's really the United States is just taking that document and it's filing it away because it didn't. Okay, so it's not like the government's like evil. I'm not going to talk about that right now, but what it is that we are ignorant. We were not taught by our parents, right? Most of us are not in the 1 to 3% of people who know about having a trust, and we don't understand that we are trust fund babies as well, okay? We are the beneficiaries of the trust that is the United States of America, but we have to understand how to have a relationship with that trust. And the way that we live right now, as we live as a implied trust, or an implied beneficiary of this trust, we have not expressed that we have our own trust, and we don't have our own estate structured properly in order to hold all of our assets. So your cars, your houses, your boats, your babies, you do not own them until you understand how to do this process. Now, this process is not some mystical thing that people don't know how to do. This is what people in my realm every day are doing. This is how we operate, is in a trust to trust society. But you guys need to understand that this information has been withheld from you, and I sit here and, like my video says, and I try and share with people, and they look at me like I'm an alien. And I get it. I am not someone who came from a privileged background. I am someone who has had to fight my way to earning my wealth, earning my relationships, and being able to talk and understand that our language is deceptive, and it is what true babble is. And so don't feel like you're dumb or like you don't have an understanding of what it is that I'm sharing or what people like me are talking about, because it is not something that was taught to you when it should have been. You were taught and conditioned to uphold the trust that is the United States of America. But now it is time for you to take the initiative and learn how to uphold the trust that is you and your estate. Okay, and that starts with the certification.
Okay, so I'm going to read to you something that was sent to me a few months ago, and it's definitely super interesting. Don't fucking come for me. I didn't write this, but whatever you believe, keep that near and dear to your heart. I think, yeah, your heart's over here. Keep that near and dear to your heart. Here we go. 40 well-kept secrets that all U.S. slaves should be aware of. Yes, I said slaves. Do with that what you will. 1. The Revolutionary War was fraud. The United States did not actually declare independence from Great Britain or the King. 2. America is a British colony. 3. The King of England financed both sides of the Revolutionary War. 4. The gold fringe, symbolic of royalty, which is attached to the border of every U.S. flag hanging in every courtroom across America, symbolizes America being ruled to this day by Great Britain under international maritime admiralty law. 5. There are no judicial courts in America, and there have not been any since 1789. Judges do not enforce states' statutes and codes. Executive administrators enforce statutes and codes. 6. There have not been any judges in America since 1789. There have only been administrators. 7. The most powerful court in America is not the United States Supreme Court, but is the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. 8. If you are legal age and retain legal counsel in your defense, you are automatically assumed by the court to be mentally incompetent ward of the court and can therefore be remanded indefinitely to any mental institution of the court's choosing. 9. You cannot use the U.S. Constitution to defend yourself because you are not a party to it. 10. The people does not include you and I. 11. You own no property. Read the deed to the property you think is yours. You are listed as a tenant. Legally, the term being refers to an animal impersonating, person is underlined, a human, such as a slave. Under the law, slaves cannot own property. 12. We are slaves and own absolutely nothing, not even what we think are our children. Read your birth certificate. Your mother is listed as an informant. 13. George Washington divided states into districts based upon ritualistic practice of dissecting Masonic squares. This is why even today so many towns are built on the square. America truly is the land of the free, Freemasons that is.
Hey, did you know that no one can lawfully be tried or convicted of any statutory crime? So to avoid prosecution under the trust, when one is taken before a corporate prosecuting attorney or judge, first, one must inquire if we are on the record, and if not, assist upon it. Say nothing, sign nothing, and answer no questions until you are convinced that the proceedings are being recorded. Secondly, all one has to say for the record is, I am the beneficiary of the trust, and I am appointing you as my trustee. Thirdly, one then directs his trustee to do his bidding. As my trustee, I want you to discharge this matter I am accused of and eliminate the record. Fourthly, if one suffered any damages as a result of his arrest, he can direct that the trust compensate him from the proceeds of the court by saying, I wish to be compensated for XYZ dollars in redemption. Now, this statement is sufficient to remove the authority and jurisdiction from any prosecuting attorney or judge. It doesn't matter what the action involves or how it is classified by the corporate law as a civil or criminal action. It works most of the time, if not every time. Did you know those facts?
Okay, so we have the UCC Connection. I've had this book for a while. It's always good to, like, you know, refresh your brain and stuff, but this back page, full circle. So we're going to read it. Special stuff you should know. Taking your birth certificate to court. The courts only want to charge some bogus bonds to your federal account, and they need your bond or permission to do the discharge. Otherwise, you must pay a fine and go to jail. But they neglected to tell us that the birth certificate is a bond, and the birth certificate is proof that we are the beneficiary and not the trustee of our strawman trust account. The state is the trustee. Everything, including crimes and taxes, is already prepaid through the birth certificate bond. In every case so far, the charges were settled and they let the fellow go without a record of crime by surrendering the birth certificate. Further, the birth certificate proves that you are the beneficiary of your strawman estate. The prosecutor is claiming that he represents the beneficiary when the estate is really supposed to be the trustee. So when you bring your birth certificate into court, you discharge all of the charges against you and you prove that you are the beneficiary of your trust estate. And this completely shuts the prosecutor down. The prosecutor now has no standing. You bringing in the birth certificate proves that he has brought fraud into the court by claiming to be the beneficiary instead of you. Only the beneficiary, who is you, can be the plaintiff. And only the trustee, the state, can be the defendant. I do not give legal advice, but this is what I would do if I were in your shoes. How to proceed. 1. Take a certified copy of your birth certificate, which is certified by the state, to court with you. Do not take a copy or it will be void, and do not have any markings on it or it will be void. 2. Write down what you're going to say because you can be nervous and forgetful. 3. When they call your name, walk up to the bar but do not cross it. If it is a court of record, ask them, are we on record? Once you are satisfied you're on the record, you can proceed. If they ask your name, ask again, are we on record? 4. Hand the birth certificate across the bar and say, I am here on special appearance. Let the record show that the person and the birth certificate has been surrendered to the courts. If they will not come and take the birth certificate, then gently toss it across the bar into the well of the court. Special appearance means that you are not giving the court jurisdiction over you. 5.
On a brass plaque somewhere in an obscure location inside the hospital, probably under a stairwell, it says this hospital is a foundling hospital. Foundling hospital. So a mother 9 months pregnant walks into a foundling hospital. She goes through a major medical procedure called childbirth where she's in pain and under duress. She's probably under the influence of painkillers of some type. You got to be pretty tough to give birth. I wouldn't want to do it. Anyway, she has that beautiful baby and all she's thinking about is getting home with it and leave it. But see, the baby in history, throughout history, came out of the water, was tugged through the birth canal, was docked at the dock by the dock tender, where a bill of lading was filled out and received on the cargo, where its soul was taken, its soul plates, the footprints of the baby. The placenta was taken. Okay? They took the baby's soul and they sent it out with a tug and is presumed dead and lost at sea until it should return and claim its minor estate. No physician delivers a baby, only a doctor does. Doctor is dock tender. The baby is a vessel, a ship. That's where the all caps name comes in. If you look at the names of ships, they're in all capital letters. Okay? No one disclosed the terms and conditions of the contract, yet you were handed a stack of papers to fill out, and you were only told, and this was right out of the nurse's manual, this is just to register your baby with the state and to give it a name. And you fill out the paperwork, and you name your baby, and you sign as an informant. What is the legal definition of the word informant? Someone who gives someone else up to another, thereby giving the title and equity of your child to the state. This creates a doctrine called parens patriae. So I should write that. It's Latin for state as your parent. State is the parent. Creates the doctrine of parens patriae. Through this doctrine, that's how they have control over you. And through your consent of being a citizen, a person, a resident. 3 things you never want to be.
I'm going to start with what law really is. Most of us think that we go into a courtroom and understand the difference between a court and a courtroom, that the people who purport to use law really use words of art to make you believe, in fact, that law is on the table when you walk into a courthouse or a courtroom, when in fact that's not true. And I would like to share with you tonight, regardless of your religious persuasion, what law really is. Law, and as Muslims would say, all law, is A-L-L space L-A-W, all law, all law. So for anyone who's of a Christian persuasion, don't be misled, and when you hear the term all law is God, all right? That is also what we would say in lawful terms a misnomer. Allah is not God. God has no capacity and no standing to all law, because God means governmental ordinance departments. There is no comparison. Now, who can use law? Law can only be used by people who are in their sovereign capacity. And as I will share with you tonight, the majority of the people in the world, and I'm not going to get into all of the details about that, but the majority of the people in the world, 99% of them live in slavery today. So in 1863, via the Emancipation Proclamation, and I challenge you to go look in a law dictionary and look up the definition of emancipation and proclamation, and you will see that a proclamation is not a law. A proclamation is a public announcement by elected officials. It is not a law. So the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 did not set any slaves free. What it did was standardize slavery, the United States being the model for the standardization of slavery, that all of the other nations around the world, as they reduced their people from their sovereign capacity and forced them to join nation states, then they were able to issue statute, codes, ordinances, resolutions on them. And a statute, as in a state statute of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, is not a law. It is corporate policy of the corporation that calls itself the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Incorporated. All right? Now, a code is not a law. The United States codes, the code of the laws of the United States of America that are used in federal court and the Supreme Court, are not law. They are what they say they are. They are codes, ordinances, and resolutions of a municipality of the city of Philadelphia, which is a private nonprofit corporation that calls itself the city of Philadelphia. An ordinance and a resolution, as in parking ordinances, they are not law. They are what they say they are. They are ordinances and they are resolutions. All right? And the reason they are not law is because the only people who can issue law are people who are acting in their sovereign capacity. And the people who sit in these seats as elected officials are not, in fact, in their sovereign capacity. They are in a corporate ward status, meaning that they are wards of the state. They are members of the corporation, which is a nonprofit, that calls itself the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And as long as they have a birth certificate on record with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, with that birth certificate being a contract, a birth certificate is a contract. And as long as you have a contract with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Incorporated, you belong to them, and that's what slavery really is. All right? So who can use law? If you are a member of a corporate ward state, if you are a member of a corporate ward nation that calls itself the United States of America, you are a citizen. Look in the law dictionary and look up the definition of citizen. A citizen is not a sovereign. A resident is not a sovereign. Therefore, if you use an address, which is a fictitious number associated with a designation issued by a corporate ward, right? then you become under the jurisdiction of those people who are also corporate boards, but who are also slaveholders. All right? So if you are operating in that capacity, law does not apply to you. If you are a resident of the city of Philadelphia, which is a private nonprofit corporation, and you say you are a resident of the city of Philadelphia, then the ordinances and the resolutions of that private nonprofit corporation apply to you. If you are a citizen of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Incorporated, which is a private nonprofit corporation, then the statutes of that nonprofit corporation apply to you. If you are a citizen of the United States of America, which is a private nonprofit corporation, then the code of the laws, right, apply to you. But if you are a sovereign of the Moorish Empire, those ordinances, those resolutions, those codes, those statutes do not apply to you because you are not a member of the corporate ward state. It's as simple as that. And they understand the difference. This is why on their documents, they use words of art. They use the word label. They use the word person. They use the word address. All of these things that place you in their jurisdiction, and you unknowingly fill out forms every day. And every time you fill out a form, you enter into a contract. I don't care what kind of form it is. It's a contract. A driver's license application is a contract. A Social Security application is a contract. When you call up the telephone company and you make a verbal contract over the telephone, this is why they can bill you. When you sign a deed, it is a contract. When you fill out a voter registration form, it is a contract. Does everybody understand that? Don't ever think anything that you put your signature on becomes a contract. All right? Now, the fact that you are not in your sovereign status means that you make a contract as a minor. They don't care. They know you are a minor because, and to be other than a minor,